Ladies and gentlemen, this is Chad Perkins for Red Giant, and it is my privilege to give you an intro here into Trapcode DAO, an amazing and versatile new plugin for Adobe After Effects that allows you to generate 3D geometry along a path. In this tutorial, we're going to look at the basics of DAO, and we're also going to dig into the types of paths that you can create and, some tips and tricks along the way. Note that this is only the first in a series of tutorials on DAO, so be sure to check the others as well as the DAO documentation for the whole story. Now let's just start fresh here. I'm going to go ahead and create a new solid, I'll call it DAO just for clarity's sake. And then I'm going to go over here to the Effects and Presets panel. You could also go up to the Effect menu at the top of the screen. I'm going to go to the Trapcode subcategory, and there we'll find DAO, T-A-O. I'm going to go ahead and apply this to my solid. And there it is. Now, again, what DAO is doing, it's generating 3D geometry along a path. DAO gives you three options to create paths. You can have a path automatically generated. You could use a motion path from a light. We'll talk about each of these in a second here. And you can also generate paths from masks. Let's open up the path generator section and talk about this. By default, the default shape here is circle. We have three to choose from. We'll come back to that in a second. We have some basic parameters like size, center, and rotation for this path. Again, this is 3D, so we can rotate this along the y-axis. Ooh. And I could also go here to taper size. I could taper this. It will taper the edges. So now we have this kind of cool 3D crescent. But the magic here, and the real important stuff to get, is not just the paths and the control over the paths, but also of the 3D objects that are along the path. So we adjust those in the segment menu right below the three path options here. And one of the most critical settings here is this segment mode dropdown. By default, it's set to extrude n-gon. What that does is it extrudes a single piece of geometry along the path. When it's set to this option, the segments menu controls the segments of the path. So if we take this down to something very small, we get something very low poly, like a 80s video game or something. Setting this very high adds a lot more smoothness to our geometry. Now I'll take this back down to something like, 6 or something small. Another option we have instead of extrude n-gon is to repeat n-gon. This kind of puts a break in the path and just uses these different chunks of geometry, and we can control the chunks with the segments parameter now. So when it's set to extrude, segments controls the path, and then now under repeat, it controls the pieces of geometry. So as we increase this, we now have separate pieces of geometry, which gives us a very different look. Again, here's extrude, and here's repeat. Another repeat option, instead of just repeating n-gons, we can